everyone, I'm Colette and my channel is Witchways, and I'm here today to kick off the start of my mini Samhain videos that I'm going to share with a book review. And it's called The Sacred Herbs of Samhain by Ellen Evert Hopman. And I wanted to do more than review this book. I wanted to give you enough information from this book to actually have you learn something. So the first thing that I want to say is there's a lot of really valuable information in this book. Not just about herbs, but also about ritual, magical practices, beliefs, and Samhain itself. And I would recommend this to any witch, and I think you get a lot out of it. And it will be especially interesting to those who are interested in plant magic. My only caveat is that, like many people in witchcraft, she occasionally uses terms that are not from her culture, like mojo bag. But overall, I really recommend this book. I also feel like one of the things she did that was really awesome was that she did a great job on talking about what's called a dumb supper. For those of you who don't know what a dumb supper is, it's a traditional dinner that's held in Gallic, Britannic lands that is a little like a feast of the dead. And what I especially liked was that she did a great job of sorting out what actually historically was done at those suppers, because there's a lot of magical things that were done, a lot of charms and divination that was practiced. And she also was really clear about the things that are from more modern pagan or witchcraft traditions. I really tend to enjoy all of her books. I have several of them. And most of the info that she shares is coming from the Celtic, Britannic traditions, specifically often from Ireland. And she also shares a lot of info about the medicinal qualities of plants, which may or may not be a bonus for some of you. She shares some of the magical properties of what are commonly called baneful plants, which is a pretty hot topic, and those are typically very poisonous plants, and she does also share appropriate cautions for those. She has 3 different references to flying ointment. How can you not love that? And she also talks about specifically aconite, woody nightshade, mandrake, yew, mistletoe, and belladonna, which it's sometimes hard to find reliable, accurate information from actual herbalists on those particular herbs. She also goes over the famous 9 herbs charm, which was an extremely powerful charm using herbs that was used against all poisons and all diseases. There's at least one of the ingredients that we don't know what it is, because the common name that is given is untraceable, and she makes a really good argument for it being the herb fumitory, and then goes on to give some of the uses and properties of that herb, like its ability to build a sense of discipline and spiritual focus and to drive away bad spirits. She also suggests that it's a great herb to make a strong tea of at Samhain, and to use that tea as a wash to clear your most important magical tools. She also shares a recipe for a sweet cordial of the powerful St. John's wort flowers, which are yellow but make this beautiful blood red infusion. And I had never thought of that before or seen that, and I'm really excited now to try it and use it as an offering for fire spirits. I also really like that she starts her first chapter with a description of a Samhain ritual that she took part in, and in various places in the book she shares from her own magical practice. I also really like the way that she has broken her book up into sections as well as chapters. So the first part is basic information that you need to know about Samhain, the other world, and the power of herbs. And then after that opening section, she starts into part 1, which is called Herbs of the Spirits and the Dead and How to Use Them at Samhain. And the chapters in this section are really interesting. They're called Herbs for Protection from and Communication with the Spirits and Fairies. Kind of love that. Herbs of Purification, Visionary Herbs, and Herbs of Divination, Herbs to Communicate with, Release, and Honor the Dead, which covers a lot. On page 32 was a fir, pine, and cedar magical practice at Samhain. And you take a cloth, soak it in oil and beeswax, wrap it around a stick of one of these woods to make a torch, and then you can sain, which means to purify the house and land by walking the boundaries in a sunwise, clockwise direction, carrying the burning and smoking brand. Part 2 is herbs, foods, and traditions of Samhain. And I've tried some of the recipes and practices from this, and it's pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to trying more. Section 2 is broken down into several chapters, and they are ritual foods for Samhain offerings, the dumb supper, which I mentioned earlier, how to conduct a dumb supper ritual, and then she ends that section with a simple Samhain rite and the goddess at Samhain. For example, under ritual foods for Samhain offerings, she talks about and gives a recipe for acorn cakes. Acorns were a traditional food in much of Europe and also in North America. And I really love that she gives specific, detailed instructions on how to leach the tannins out of the acorns so that they can be safe to eat. And she also mentioned this thing that I didn't know and I'm really excited about, is that you can find pre-leached acorn flour in Korean stores, in person or online, if you're lucky enough to have a Korean store in your neighborhood. I have heard that some of the North American species, that it's not as easy to leach out the toxins, and so you might want to do a little research on the type of acorns that grow in your area and see if they will work well for becoming edible food. I'm also really excited about her hazelnut recipes. I love hazelnuts. I almost always make a hazelnut cordial as an offering for the spirits and my ancestors in the fall because it's such a powerful plant. It has a lot of associations with wisdom and priestesshood and intuition that I like. In section 2 under Samhain goddesses, she also gives some of their original names in the various regions and she translates them into English. And so, for example, she talks about Morgan as being derived from the old Irish words Moor, which means great, and Regan, which means queen. So the Morgan is great queen, which I like that. She wraps the book up with a couple of appendixes, and Appendix A is about giving detailed ideas for offerings to land and water spirits, and Appendix B is called Offerings for the Fairies at Each Sabbath. And not only does she give ideas for offerings and the way to do it, but she also gives different names from the different regions of the Celtic Brittonic area, like Cornwall, Wales, Ireland, Scotland. Let me know in the comments what your favorite books are for this time of year, and if you want to get more in-depth info from me about Samhain, check out my Patreon special, and I'll put some information about that in the description. Until next time, stay safe and be well.